The worst part wasn't the words themselves. It was the laughter that followed. I stood in the corner of my grandmother's lakeside estate, clutching a glass of champagne I was barely old enough to drink, watching my stepmother Brinley command the room like she always did. The post-funeral luncheon had morphed from somber remembrance into her usual performance art. "I'd like to thank everyone for coming today," she announced, perfectly manicured hand raised with her glass. "Family means everything to us, doesn't it? Even the temporary ones." Her eyes found mine across the room. That practiced smile never wavered. "Like Sasha here, our temporary daughter." My father's laugh cut through the awkward silence. He actually laughed. "I'm Sasha Robinson, and this is the moment I stopped believing in happy endings." Such a blessing, watching Michael raise her after poor Claire passed, Brinley continued. "Of course, now that she's in college, we can focus on our real family's future." I set my glass down before I could throw it. The crystal clinked against the marble countertop, drawing a few glances. Nobody spoke up. Nobody ever did. "Sasha, dear, would you help clear some plates?" Brinley's voice dripped honey-sweet poison. I moved mechanically, gathering dishes while conversations resumed around me. My half-siblings, Raylan and Eli, sprawled on the leather sofa, scrolling through their phones. Dad stood by the fireplace, arm around Brinley's waist, both of them basking in their picture-perfect family moment. "I'm so sorry about your grandmother," a voice said beside me. "My cousin Jade, one of the few genuine people here." "Thanks." I managed a tight smile. "I think I need some air." I slipped away to Grandma Olive's study, where the familiar scent of her perfume still lingered. This room held more love than the entire house combined. I ran my fingers along her bookshelf, remembering Sunday afternoons spent reading together while everyone else went boating. A leather-bound photo album caught my eye. As I pulled it down, an envelope fluttered to the floor. My name was written in Grandma's elegant script. My hands trembled as I opened it. "My dearest Sasha, if you're reading this, I'm gone. But I've watched them chip away at your spirit for too long. The account number below is your inheritance. $250,000. Use it for something they can never take from you. Remember, you were never temporary to me. Love, Grandma Olive." I sank into her reading chair, staring at the numbers until they blurred. A separate paper confirmed the account's existence and my sole access to it. "There you are!" Brinley's voice made me jump. I shoved the letter into my purse. "We're cutting the cake. Do try to look less morose. This is a celebration of life, after all." I stood, something sharp and cold crystallizing in my chest. "Of course, Brinley. Wouldn't want to spoil the family photos. That's the spirit." She patted my cheek. "Though you might want to touch up your makeup. You look rather plain." As she clicked away on her designer heels, I caught my reflection in Grandma's mirror. I saw what they never did. Not some temporary placeholder, but my mother's eyes, my grandmother's chin. Steel underneath the silence. "Sasha," Dad called from downstairs. "Family photo time." I touched the letter in my purse, feeling its weight like a key turning in a lock. "Coming," I called back, but I paused at the doorway of Grandma's study. The family beach house photos lined her walls, decades of summers where I'd been pushed to the edges of every frame. The house they never let me call home. My phone buzzed with a text from Brinley. "We're waiting." I smiled at my reflection, whispering words that tasted like freedom. Whatever I do next, they'll never see it coming. The laughter from downstairs floated up, my father's the loudest. Let them laugh. Let them think they knew the ending to this story. I had $250,000 and a lifetime of receipts. More importantly, I had Grandma Olive's final gift: permission to stop playing nice. I touched up my mascara, practiced my camera-ready smile, and headed downstairs to take my place in one last family photo. After all, every revenge story needs a before picture. Memories have a funny way of shifting once you start looking for the truth. Like that summer when I was 13, standing outside the beach house while everyone else sprawled across the deck chairs inside. "Sorry, sweetie," Brinley had said, not looking sorry at all. "The main house is full, but the gardener's cottage is just darling." I spent that week in a musty twin bed, while Raylan and Eli fought over who got the ocean view suite. Now 3 weeks after Grandma's funeral, I sat in my cramped apartment, scrolling through old family photos. Each one told the same story. Me, hovering at the edges, while they lived their postcard-perfect life. My phone buzzed. A text from Raylan. "OMG, Dad and Mom are being so extra. Already planning how to split the beach house between me and Eli when we're older." I stared at the message. She probably thought she was being nice, including me in the gossip. That's when I noticed something odd in one of the photos. A document on the coffee table. Property papers. "Hey, Rem," I called my cousin Remington. "Quick question about the beach house. Who actually owns it?" "Uncle Reggie," he said. "Why?" I sat up straighter. "Brinley's uncle? Not Dad?" "Yeah. Some complicated thing with the original deed. Nobody talks about it." 2 hours of digging later, I found Uncle Reggie's number. My hands shook as I dialed. "Hello?" His voice was gruff, cautious. "Hi, Uncle Reggie. It's Sasha. I was hoping we could meet. About the beach house." Silence stretched across the line. Then, "How much do you know?" "Enough to make it worth your time." We agreed to meet at a coffee shop the next day. I arrived early, watching him through the window as he approached. He looked nervous, checking over his shoulder before entering. "You're looking more like your grandmother every day," he said, sliding into the booth. "Thanks. She taught me a lot about paying attention." I placed my coffee down. Like how to spot when someone's in trouble. His shoulders tensed. "What are you getting at?" "I know about the gambling debts, Uncle Reggie, and I know you've been trying to sell the house quietly." He leaned forward, voice dropping. "Who told you?" "Nobody had to, but I have a proposition." I pulled out a folder. "I want to buy it. Full market value? Cash payment?" His eyes widened. "You can't afford—" I showed him the bank statement. His mouth snapped shut. "Why?" he finally asked. "Because some things are worth more than money." I slid the folder closer. "And some debts need to be paid." He studied the papers, then me. "They'll hate you for this." "They already do. At least this way, I get something out of it." After he left with the signed preliminary agreement, I drove to the beach house. The sun was setting, painting the windows gold. I used the spare key nobody knew I had copied and walked inside. Everything looked the same. The family photos where I barely appeared. The marks on the door frame tracking Raylan and Eli's heights. But not mine. The kitchen where Brinley taught them to bake, sending me to do homework instead. My phone buzzed again. A group text from Brinley. "Annual family gathering next month. Making special plans for our darling children's future." I found a red Sharpie in the drawer and walked to the fridge where their perfect family vision board hung. Photos, plans, dreams, all centered around Raylan and Eli. My face appeared once, blurred in the background of a Christmas photo. I uncapped the marker and drew a neat red X across my face. "You're right, Brinley," I whispered. "I am temporary. But this house, this is permanent." My phone buzzed one more time. "Uncle Reggie. Lawyer can meet tomorrow. Bring the cashier's check." I took one last look around the house that had never been my home. Soon it would be mine. Legally, irrevocably mine. The thought should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like justice. Walking out, I noticed a small handprint in cement near the steps. Mine, from age 7. Dad had been furious, calling it vandalism. But Grandma Olive had stopped him from removing it. "Some marks," she'd said, "are meant to last forever." I touched the tiny impression, remembering her words from the letter. Use it for something they can never take from you. Oh, Grandma, if only you could see me now. I locked up and headed to my car, already planning my next move. The family gathering was 4 weeks away. Plenty of time to prepare for the moment they realized exactly how permanent I could be. The lawyer's office smelled like leather and lemon polish. Uncle Reggie's hands trembled as he signed the final papers, but mine were steady. "Congratulations, Ms. Robinson," the lawyer said, sliding the deed across his mahogany desk. "The property is now legally yours." Uncle Reggie cleared his throat. "Brinley's going to—" "That's not my problem anymore," I cut in, gathering the documents. "And it's not yours either." Outside, he caught my arm. "Listen, Sasha, I know why you're doing this, but family—" "Family?" I laughed. "Is that what we're calling it now?" "They're not all bad." "No, just the ones who matter." I softened my tone. "Your debt's cleared. You don't owe them anything anymore." He nodded slowly. "Neither do you." I drove straight to the beach house. My beach house now. The late afternoon sun painted long shadows across the wraparound porch where I'd spent countless hours watching everyone else belong. The key slid home in the lock with a satisfying click. Inside, everything looked different somehow. The walls that once felt like they were closing in now seemed to breathe with possibility. My phone buzzed. "Jade, did you do it?" "It's done," I texted back. "Want to see?" She arrived 20 minutes later with a bottle of champagne. "To new beginnings?" "To karma." I clinked my glass against hers. We walked through the rooms, and I pointed out all the spots where memory lived like bruises under the skin. "That's where Brinley told me I couldn't join the family portrait, because my outfit didn't match the color scheme. Here's where Dad promised to teach me to sail, then took only Eli instead." "Jesus, Sasha." Jade shook her head. "How did you stand it?" "I didn't. I just got better at hiding." My phone lit up with a text from Brinley. "Darling, we need to discuss sleeping arrangements for the gathering. Raylan wants the master suite." I showed Jade the message and smiled. "Should I tell her now?" "No way. Let them show up and find out." We climbed to the widow's walk at the top of the house. The ocean stretched endlessly before us, waves catching the last light like scattered diamonds. "Remember when we were kids?" Jade said. "And you used to hide up here?" "Yeah. It was the only place they wouldn't follow." I leaned against the railing. "Grandma found me once. Instead of making me come down, she brought up hot chocolate and told me stories about her mother. She always saw you differently than they did. She saw me clearly. That's what scared them." Back downstairs, I found the family photos lining the hallway. Me at 13, hovering at the edge of the frame. Me at 16, half hidden behind Raylan. Me at graduation, barely visible behind my father's shoulder. "Watch this," I said to Jade, taking down each photo. In their place, I hung pictures Grandma had given me, ones of just us together, smiling real smiles. Me learning to bake in her kitchen. Us reading on her porch swing. Simple moments that felt like home. "Perfect," Jade whispered. My phone buzzed again. Dad this time. "Honey, your sister's asking about redecorating her room at the beach house. Maybe you could help?" "Stepsister," I corrected out loud, then typed, "Sure, Dad. I have some ideas." Jade raised an eyebrow. "You're evil." "I'm efficient." I walked to the kitchen and pulled out the vision board, still marked with my red X. They wanted me temporary? Fine. But this house is permanent. We spent the next hour rearranging furniture, clearing out drawers, erasing small traces of their presence. In the master bedroom, my bedroom now, I replaced Brinley's designer bedding with simple white linens. "What are you going to do with their stuff?" Jade asked. I pointed to a stack of boxes by the door. "Shipping it back tomorrow. Special delivery." As the sun set, we stood on the back deck, the same deck where they'd held family dinners without setting me a place. where Brinley had planned my siblings' futures while treating mine like an afterthought. To the house that chose me, I said, raising my glass one final time. Jade hugged me tight. They're going to lose their minds. Good. I watched the waves roll in, feeling the weight of ownership settle around my shoulders like a crown. It's about time they lost something. After Jade left, I walked through my house one more time. In each room, I whispered the word. Mine. My phone lit up with one last message from Brinley. Don't forget. Family gathering in 3 weeks. Can't wait to share our special announcement. I smiled at the screen, thinking of Grandma's words. Use it for something they can never take from you. Oh, Brinley. I can't wait either. The invitation arrived on thick cream cardstock. Brinley's swirling handwriting announcing the annual Robinson family summer gathering, like it was a royal decree. I traced the gold-embossed letters, remembering how these invitations used to make my stomach knot with dread. Now they made me smile. My phone rang. Remington. Hey, did you get the invite? He asked without preamble. Just now. Why? There's something you should know. He paused. I overheard Mom talking to Brinley about Grandma Olive. I sat down, suddenly alert. What about her? Apparently Brinley visited her a few weeks before she died. Told her not to leave you anything in the will. Said you'd blow it on spite or something. The room tilted slightly. She what? Yeah. She convinced Grandma you were unstable. Needed guidance with money. Mom was disgusted but didn't want to get involved. I thought of Grandma's secret letter, her hidden account. She hadn't just left me money. She'd protected it from them. There's more, Remington continued. They're planning some big announcement at the gathering. Something about making the beach house a true family legacy. I laughed, the sound sharp enough to make him pause. What's funny? Nothing, just thinking about karma. I picked up the invitation again. Hey Rem, thanks for telling me. After hanging up, I opened my laptop and pulled up the email from my lawyer. Everything was ready. New deed registered, utilities transferred, insurance updated. I'd even hired a cleaning service to deep clean the house before the gathering. My phone buzzed with a text from Brinley. Sasha dear, do try to dress appropriately this time. Family photos. I typed back, don't worry, I've got something special planned. The next few days passed in a blur of preparation. I ordered catering, arranged for new locks to be installed, and carefully selected my outfit, a white sundress that matched the one my mother wore in her last beach house photo. 3 days before the gathering, I drove down early to set everything up. The house gleamed in the summer sun, fresh paint making it look better than it had in years. Inside, I found Jade waiting. The boxes arrived, she said, gesturing to the stack of returned items I'd shipped to Brinley. She's been calling everyone, trying to figure out what's happening. Let her wonder. I started unpacking groceries. Did you get the photos? Jade pulled out an envelope. Inside were dozens of pictures. Every moment they'd excluded me, every time they'd pushed me aside, all documented over years. Found these in Grandma's albums, she said. She kept everything. Of course she did. I arranged them on the dining room table like a timeline of rejection. She knew this day would come. My phone rang. Dad. Honey, Brinley's upset about some boxes? His voice held that familiar note of disapproval. What's going on? Just doing some redecorating, Dad. For the gathering. Sasha. Don't worry. Everyone will understand soon enough. I hung up before he could respond and turned to Jade. Want to help me set up the big reveal? We spent the afternoon preparing. I hung a new sign above the door. Welcome to Olive's Haven, and arranged fresh flowers in every room. The catering order was confirmed. The bar stocked, every detail perfect. They're going to flip, Jade said, admiring our work. That's the point. Later, alone on the deck, I called Remington back. What exactly did Brinley say to Grandma? I asked. He sighed. She said you were too much like your mom. Emotional. Unpredictable. Said you needed a firm hand. And Dad? Just stood there. Like always. I thought about all the times I'd waited for him to defend me. To see me. Well, they're about to see exactly how much like my mother I am. My phone lit up with another text from Brinley. Darling, we need to discuss the sleeping arrangements. Raylan and Eli. I cut her off with my reply. See you at the beach house. You're gonna love what I've done with it. Then I blocked her number. The sun was setting when I finally went upstairs to the master bedroom, my bedroom now. On the dresser sat a photo of Grandma Olive and me, taken right here at the beach house. We were both laughing, neither of us looking at the camera. I picked it up, remembering that day. Watch me make you proud, Grandma. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Raylan. Mom's having a meltdown about the boxes. What did you do? I smiled at the screen. Nothing yet. But in 3 days, I'm going to show you exactly what temporary looks like. Then I walked onto the balcony and watched the waves roll in, counting down the hours until they all arrived to find out just how permanent I could be. The first car pulled up at exactly noon. I watched from the widow's walk as Brinley stepped out, designer sunglasses hiding her eyes, Dad right behind her. They tried the front door, found it locked, and rang the bell. I took my time walking down the stairs, smoothing my white dress. The caterers had just finished setting up the appetizer spread in the dining room. Everything was perfect. I opened the door with my brightest smile. Welcome to Olive's Haven. Brinley's mouth fell open at the new sign above the door. What is this? Just a little redecorating. I gestured to the entry table where champagne flutes waited. Drink? Sasha, Dad started. What's going on? Let's wait for everyone else. I handed them each a glass. They should be here any minute. Right on cue, more cars pulled up. Raylan and Eli arrived with their friends. Aunt Kylie and Uncle Mark. Cousins. Family friends. Each face registered surprise at the locked door, the new sign, my position as greeter. Once everyone had gathered in the living room, Brinley cleared her throat. Well, this is unexpected, but we have wonderful news to share. Actually, I interrupted, I have news first. I walked to the dining room table where the deed lay waiting. Everyone, please sit. Now really isn't the time, Brinley started. It's exactly the time. I picked up the deed. You all know this house, right? The family legacy? The summer retreat that's been promised to Raylan and Eli? Dad shifted uncomfortably. Honey, funny thing about promises? I slid the deed across the table. They're not worth much without paperwork. Silence fell as Brinley snatched up the document. Her perfectly manicured fingers trembled as she read. This can't be legal. Her voice shook. Oh, but it is. I smiled. I bought it. Fair and square. With funds meant for respect. Something you all never tried to give me. You what? Raylan jumped up. But it was always supposed to be ours. Like I was always supposed to be family? I turned to face them all. Temporary daughter, remember? Dad stood up. That's not fair. No, what's not fair is watching you laugh while your wife humiliated me at Grandma's funeral. I pulled out my phone and played the recording of Brinley's speech. The laughter, the cruelty. Aunt Kylie gasped. Several people looked away. You can't do this, Brinley hissed. We'll fight it. Go ahead. I gestured to the stack of legal documents on the sideboard. Everything's ironclad. Ask Uncle Reggie. All eyes turned to Reggie, who had been trying to blend into the wallpaper. It's legal, he mumbled. She bought it outright. You sold our house to her? Brinley's voice rose to a shriek. Actually, I cut in, he sold me my house. The one Grandma Olive wanted me to have all along. I walked to the photo wall where the new pictures hung, just Grandma and me, year after year, while everyone else excluded us from their perfect family narrative. But the gathering, Raylan started crying. Where will we? Oh, the gathering can still happen. I picked up my champagne. I'm your host, after all, and I've prepared a lovely lunch. We should eat before it gets cold. Michael, Brinley turned to my father, do something. Dad looked at me, really looked at me, maybe for the first time in years. What do you want, Sasha? What I've always wanted. I met his gaze steadily. For you to see me. This is ridiculous, Brinley snapped. We're leaving. Children, get your things. Your things have been shipped back to you, I said pleasantly. Check your front porch. She went pale. You went through our rooms? My rooms, I corrected. In my house. The silence that followed felt like breaking glass. But Eli spoke for the first time, voice small. Where will we spend summers? I'm sure you'll figure something out. I raised my glass. Like I had to, all those times you left me behind. Brinley grabbed her purse. This isn't over. Actually, it is. I walked to the front door and held it open. You can stay for lunch, or you can leave. But either way, this house belongs to me now. One by one, they filed out. Some looked angry, others shocked. A few seemed almost impressed. Dad paused at the door. I never meant... I know, I cut him off. You never meant anything. That was the problem. After they left, Jade appeared from the kitchen where she'd been watching. That, she said, was epic. I looked around at my house. Really mine now, in every way that mattered. No, I replied, picking up Brinley's abandoned champagne glass. That was justice. Through the window, I watched them cluster in the driveway, gesturing wildly, falling apart, just like I had, so many times before. But this time, I was safely inside, looking out. The aftermath hit like a hurricane. First came the texts, dozens of them, ranging from rage to guilt to desperate negotiation. Then the calls, which I let go to voicemail. Finally, the threats. You'll regret this, Brinley's voice crackled through my speaker. We'll sue. I forwarded the message to my lawyer and blocked her number. Aunt Kylie called next. Girl, you've started a war. Half the family's not speaking to the other half. Brinley's having daily meltdowns. Sounds exhausting, I said, painting my toenails on my new deck chair. For her. Your father's a mess. He's had practice. A week after the reveal, Remington showed up at my door with beer and gossip. You won't believe what I found out, he said, settling into a porch chair. Remember how Brinley always said your mom never contributed to the beach house maintenance? I nodded, popping open a bottle. Total lie. I found old bank statements in Mom's attic. Your mom paid for the new roof, the dock repairs, everything. Brinley just took credit. The bottle froze halfway to my lips. What? Gets better. There's evidence Brinley convinced your dad to remove you from some earlier inheritances. Said you'd appreciate family more if you had to earn things yourself. I laughed, but it came out hollow. Wow. Yeah, Mom's furious. She's telling everyone. My phone buzzed. A text from Raylan. This isn't fair. We grew up in that house. So did I typed back. In the gardener's cottage. She read it but didn't respond. The next day, Uncle Reggie's daughter Jade brought lunch and news. Dad told me everything, she said, unpacking sandwiches. Brinley's been holding this gambling debt over him for years. That's why he never spoke up when they treated you badly. Blackmail. Classy. He's relieved it's over. Says it feels like waking up. I bit into my sandwich, thinking about all the quiet ways Brinley had manipulated everyone. The subtle threats, the careful lies, the strategic kindnesses that were really just weapons in disguise. My phone lit up. Dad, I understand why you did it, his voicemail said later. I just hope it was worth it. I played it twice, searching for remorse in his voice and finding only resignation. That evening, I sat on the widow's walk with a glass of wine, watching the sunset paint the ocean gold. Below, a car pulled into the driveway. Brinley. She pounded on the door, but I didn't move. "I know you're in there," she shouted. "You can't hide forever." I sipped my wine and recorded her performance on my phone. Evidence, my lawyer called it. Poetry, I thought. She left after 20 minutes, but not before screaming, "You ungrateful little brat. After everything we did for you." I sent the video to Dad with one line. "Still think I'm overreacting?" The next morning, Aunt Kylie called again. "Your father moved out last night," she said without preamble. Apparently the video was the last straw. "He's staying at the Holiday Inn." Huh. I watched a seagull dive into the waves. Guess karma's working overtime. There's more. Remember that trust fund Brinley set up for the twins? Turns out she's been dipping into it to cover her shopping habits. Your dad found the statements. I thought about all those designer outfits, the spa days, the luxury cars. All while I wore secondhand clothes and took the bus. How much? Nearly half. Raylan and Eli are devastated. Later that day, I found a letter in my mailbox. Grandma Olive's handwriting. "My dearest Sasha, if you're reading this, the truth has finally come out. I wanted to tell you everything about your mother's contributions, about Brinley's manipulations. But you needed to find your own way to justice. Remember, sometimes the biggest gift we can give ourselves is the courage to walk away. Love always, Grandma." I folded the letter and looked out at my house. My mother's house, really. Every repair she'd paid for, every improvement she'd made, all erased from family history by Brinley's careful lies. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from Dad. "Can we talk?" I thought about Grandma's words, about walking away, about justice. "No," I typed back. "I think we've all said enough." Then I went inside my house, the house that had always been meant for me, and started planning renovations. The gardener's cottage would make a perfect guest house for Jade and Remington. The widow's walk needed new railings. The kitchen deserved an update. After all, some things are worth investing in. Like karma, and peace, and the satisfaction of watching a house of cards finally fall. 1 month after the fallout, I hosted my first gathering at Olive's Haven. No drama, no forced family photos, just the people who had shown me real kindness over the years. Jade helped me set up the buffet on the deck, while Remington mixed drinks at the outdoor bar. The ocean breeze carried the scent of grilling seafood and fresh-cut flowers. "Your grandmother would have loved this," Jade said, arranging fresh sunflowers. "Grandma's favorites." "She does love it," I corrected. "She's here in every detail." My phone buzzed. A text from Raylan. "Dad's filing for divorce." I showed Jade the message. "Wow," she said. "You okay?" Before I could answer, Aunt Kylie arrived with news. "You won't believe this," she said, accepting a mimosa from Remington. "Brinley's being investigated for financial fraud. Apparently, the trust fund wasn't the only money she mismanaged." "What do you mean?" I asked. "Remember that charity foundation she chaired? The one that was supposed to help underprivileged kids? Let's just say those kids never saw a dime." I thought about all her fancy fundraising galas, the press coverage, the way she'd positioned herself as such a philanthropist while treating her own stepdaughter like garbage. "Karma really is working overtime," Remington muttered. More guests arrived. Cousins who had always been kind, family friends who had seen through Brinley's act, even Uncle Reggie, looking years younger without the weight of secrets. As we gathered for dinner, Jade clinked her glass. "A toast," she announced, "to Sasha, who taught us all that family isn't about blood or names. It's about who shows up when it matters." "To Karma," I added, raising my glass. "When it steps through the front door, may it always look like me." Everyone laughed, but Uncle Reggie's face turned serious. "There's something you should know," he said quietly, "about your father." My stomach tightened. "What about him?" "He's in trouble." The divorce investigation revealed some financial irregularities at his company. Brinley's spending wasn't just from the trust fund. She was using company money too. As CEO, he's liable. I set down my fork. How bad? Bad enough that he's selling his house. The one you grew up in. The one where my mother had lived. Where her garden still bloomed every spring. Good, I said, but something in my chest ached. Later, as guests mingled on the deck, Jade pulled me aside. "Remember when we were kids," she said, "and Grandma Olive used to tell us that story about the lighthouse keeper?" I nodded. The keeper who saved ships by showing them where not to go, marking the dangerous rocks with light. She told me something once, right before she died. Said you were meant to burn all bridges with dignity. Not out of hate, but because some paths shouldn't be crossed again. My phone lit up with another text. "Dad, the house goes on market tomorrow. Your mother's roses. I thought you might want them." I showed Jade the message. "Are you going to respond?" she asked. Before I could decide, Aunt Kylie rushed over with her phone out. "Look what just got posted on Facebook," she exclaimed. It was Brinley, at some luxury resort in Miami. The caption read, "Sometimes you have to escape toxic people and start fresh. Blessed new beginnings." "The nerve," Jade muttered, "using your money to fund her escape." "Let her run," I said. "She can't hide from karma forever." As the sun set, casting long shadows across the deck, I thought about bridges burning, about lighthouses warning ships away from dangerous shores, about my mother's roses blooming in a garden I'd never see again. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from an unknown number. "Your grandmother told me you'd do this someday. She said you'd burn it all down with grace. Love, Jade's mom." I looked around at my chosen family enjoying the evening, at the house that had finally become a home, at the ocean that had witnessed it all. "To karma," I whispered again. But this time it tasted different. Less like victory, more like peace. Later that night, after everyone left, I sat on the widow's walk with Grandma's last letter in my lap. The envelope felt heavier than before, like it held one more secret. As I turned it over, something slipped out, a small key with a tag attached. The tag read, "For when you're ready to rebuild. Some bridges are worth saving." I held the key up to the moonlight, wondering what door it might open, what truth it might reveal. But that was tomorrow's story. Tonight I had the ocean, the stars, and the satisfaction of knowing that sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's reconstruction. On your own terms, in your own time, with your own chosen family. The key from Grandma's letter led me to a safety deposit box at Coastal First Bank. Inside, I found another envelope, thicker than the first, and a deed. Not just any deed, the original deed to the beach house. My hands trembled as I read the document. There, in faded ink, was my mother's name alongside my grandmother's. They had bought this house together, long before Dad met Brinley. But there was more. Grandma had added my name as a contingent owner before she died. The house had always been meant for me. I hadn't just bought it, I'd reclaimed it. My phone buzzed. "Jade, did you open the box?" "Come over," I texted back. "Bring Remington." They arrived as I spread the contents across the dining room table. Photos, letters, bank statements, a paper trail of truth. "Holy shit," Remington whispered, picking up a letter. "Your mom and Grandma Olive bought this place as a sanctuary for women in their family who needed escape. Look at this," Jade pointed to a photo. My mother, young and radiant, standing on the deck. Read the back. "To Claire's daughter," I read aloud. "When she needs to remember she was never temporary. Love, Grandma." My phone rang. "Dad." "The roses," he said when I answered. "They're digging them up tomorrow." I thought about the key, the deed, my mother's dream of sanctuary. Leave them, I said. I'll send someone. That afternoon, I watched as the garden service carefully transplanted my mother's roses into the soil beside the beach house, where they should have been all along. Aunt Kylie arrived with news about Brinley. She's being indicted, she announced. Federal charges for fraud. Your father's cooperating with investigators to save himself. Good for him, I said, not looking up from the roses. He asked about you. I'm sure he did. As the sun set, I sat on the deck with Jade and Remington, sharing the last bottle of Grandma's favorite wine that we'd found in the cellar. What are you going to do now? Jade asked. I pulled out Grandma's final letter, the one from the safety deposit box. Dear Sasha, this house has always been more than wood and windows. Your mother and I bought it as a promise, that our family's women would always have somewhere to stand their ground. You've reclaimed more than property. You've reclaimed your birthright. The strength that runs in your blood, the power to choose your own family. The key you found opens more than doors. It opens the future. Use it wisely. Love always. Grandma Olive P.S. Check the loose floorboard in the master bedroom. Some legacies are meant to be shared. I led them upstairs. The floorboard creaked under the window, revealing a hidden space. Inside, stock certificates, offshore account numbers, enough resources to turn Olive's Haven into something bigger. She left you everything, Remington breathed. No, I said, reading the attached note. She left us a mission. The next morning, I filed paperwork to create the Olive's Haven Foundation, a sanctuary program for women rebuilding their lives. The beach house would be the first of many. My phone buzzed. Raylin, I understand now. Why you did it. Why you had to. I thought about responding, but some bridges stay burned for a reason. Instead, I texted Jade. Ready to help run a foundation? That evening, I stood on the Widow's Walk, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of possibility. Below, my mother's roses bloomed against the weathered walls, their fragrance carrying on the salt breeze. My phone lit up one last time. A message from Dad. Your mother would be proud. I thought about temporary daughters and permanent legacies, about karma and justice and the difference between revenge and reclamation. No, I typed back. Grandma was proud. Mom would have been fierce. Then I went inside my house. My mother's house, my grandmother's house, my house, and hung their photo beside mine on the wall. 3 generations of women who refused to be temporary. Tomorrow, the first sanctuary residents would arrive. Women carrying their own stories of displacement, their own needs for refuge. They'd find more than shelter here. They'd find what I found. The power to rewrite their stories, to choose their family, to make permanent what others tried to make temporary. I touched the key hanging around my neck, not just to a house or a safety deposit box, but to a legacy of strength. They called me temporary, I whispered to the empty rooms that would soon be full again. But this house, this power, this peace? The ocean waves answered back, steady as a heartbeat, permanent.